Hey YouTubers, this is Charlie. So Hugh Jackman just dropped a bomb, said he's only doing one more Wolverine movie, and there's a whole bunch of X-Men, Apocalypse, Deadpool news. So I'll try and explain everything that's going on and what it means for the future of the X-Men franchise. Let's just start with the Wolverine WTF first, because most of us probably grew up with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Let me know how old you were when you saw that first Bryan Singer film. If you didn't see it this morning, Hugh Jackman posted a picture this morning saying, "one more time." Just to clarify, that means one more Wolverine solo movie. He's supposed to have a cameo in X-Men Apocalypse, but that movie is not going to center on him like Days of Future Past did. And if you don't know what the schedule is, X-Men Apocalypse is coming out May of next year in 2016. The third Wolverine movie is tentatively scheduled for March 2017, but I'm expecting that to change. Really, I think after the initial shock wears off, no more Hugh Jackman Wolverine pretty soon. I think it's not that surprising. Most actors leave a role way before this. It's funny in that it flies in the face of what Robert Downey Jr. has said recently about playing Iron Man. He said he's totally gonna ride the wave into the shore, which means he's gonna keep playing Iron Man so people don't buy tickets for those movies anymore, which is essentially never. So at some point you will see a gray-haired Tony Stark. I'll just go on record as saying Hugh Jackman is an amazing actor, and even if he doesn't play Wolverine anymore, he will still continue to headline big blockbuster movies for a long time. His next big movie is actually Pan. He plays Blackbeard in Pan, which is kind of a musical. It's the same team that made Les Mis, so if you like Hugh Jackman doing that kind of stuff, you'll totally enjoy this. Those are probably the big $150 million movies he'll continue to make after X-Men. Just to take a trip down memory lane, the funny thing about Hugh Jackman's time as Wolverine is that originally he wasn't supposed to be Wolverine. When they were first putting the movie together, when Bryan Singer was first putting that original X-Men movie together, they wanted Russell Crowe. He turned it down immediately. He was like, no thanks. So they went down the list, and the studio really wanted Keanu Reeves or Gary Sinise, which I know sounds totally weird. They ended up picking Doug Ray Scott, this guy, who you probably don't recognize. Then he ended up having to drop out of the movie because he had a scheduling conflict with the second Mission Impossible movie. And then Hugh Jackman finally made it on the list because his super duper best friend just happened to be Russell Crowe, superstar, who suggested him to Bryan Singer. The studio wasn't super hot on the idea, but Bryan Singer was the director. He's like, I think this is a good idea. Russell Crowe said he's awesome, so let's give it a try. And the rest is history. But that is the role that turned him into the mega superstar Hugh Jackman that you see today. So as much as it sucks that we're not going to see any more Hugh Jackman Wolverine, just remember, this is like 2017 we're talking about when this Wolverine 3 is going to come out. In terms of stories for that third Wolverine movie, they haven't officially announced anything, but Hugh Jackman did say that he wanted to do an Old Man Logan story before the curtain closed. I think right now that's the best theory, but I did put together a list of my top 5 choices for stories that they should do. I know a lot of people are really hot on the idea of the death of Wolverine because they just did it in the comic books. They kind of did that in the last Wolverine solo film, like where they took his powers and made him mortal. That's what you see in a lot of these Wolverine movies, is they'll take like aspects of these big Wolverine story arcs from the comics. They never do carbon copies of the comic book stories. So top 5 Wolverine stories. Here we go. Number 5, Weapon X. This is more of a deep dive into the world of Weapon X as they were creating Wolverine, if they were experimenting on him. Lots of torture, really dark. They did some of this during Wolverine Origins. I mean, like they showed them creating Wolverine, but there really weren't that many supporting characters, or the supporting characters that they did have in the film didn't feel like characters. So imagine a movie told more from their perspective. Think of it as more of a Frankenstein, Mary Shelley story told with X-Men characters. If you want to read it, it's Marvel Comics Presents number 72 to 84. On to number 4, Wolverine Alone. This is like a small story inside of the Dark Phoenix saga, probably one of the most famous X-Men stories of all time. I know they just cast Sophie Turner as the new Jean Grey, so I do think they're building towards a Dark Phoenix movie, but I think by the time they get there, by the time Sophie Turner is ready for that, Hugh Jackman will have already vacated the role. So there's like a small chance of this happening, but I really want to see him do it. The Hellfire Club has basically captured all the X-Men and neutralized them, and Wolverine has to slice his way through each one of them to get his friends back. But it's deep in the throes of Dark Phoenix. Jean Grey has already become the Dark Phoenix and is going crazy all over everyone. So if they did do this, they would probably just do like a Dark Phoenix movie and add this in as like a couple scenes. But I would like to see them cycle the Hellfire Club back into the movies just because they're such an interesting group of characters. On to number 3, Wolverine Enemy of the State. This would involve a Marvel X-Men crossover, so it's slightly unlikely. I don't think we're going to see a Marvel crossover anytime soon. But Wolverine gets mind controlled, loses his shit, goes super dark, and Nick Fury has to bring him in with the help of S.H.I.E.L.D. The big antagonist in the story is the Hand, working with Hydra. The Hand is kind of like this evil group of ninjas that also shows up in a lot of Daredevil stories, so we can actually see them show up on the Daredevil TV series. But I know everyone really wants a dark Wolverine story at some point. I don't know if they would want to close Hugh Jackman's run as Wolverine on a really dark note, but it would be a really bold move. On to number 2, slightly more positive choice, Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. This is from Chris Claremont's run, no surprise there. Probably one of the most famous X-Men writers of all time. The story just follows Wolverine's adventures with Kitty Pryde in more of a parental, child, senpai context. Papa Wolverine takes young Kitty Pryde under his wing, who in this story is way darker than we've seen in the movies. Imagine like a Bad News Bears version of Kitty Pryde, like just really down and out on her luck. Hugh Jackman is definitely at the right age where he can totally pull off Dad Wolverine. Kitty Pryde, though, I'm not so sure about because Ellen Page might not be coming back anytime soon. They'd have to recast the role probably because I think when she came back in Days of Future Past, that was a one-time thing. Even though she does still look like a little girl, she can still totally pull off little girl. But I think the X-Men producers are trying to cycle in new, younger versions of the characters just so they have a little more longevity. This is like a really perfect senpai Wolverine story, especially one that involves a really strong female character, and it seems like the X-Men films like Apocalypse, for instance, are centering more on the female characters. Like X-Men Apocalypse, obviously going to be about Apocalypse, but mostly it's going to center on Mystique's character because obviously, Jennifer Lawrence, biggest star on the planet right now. Kitty Pryde, also one of the best female X-Men characters of all time, so I really want to see more Kitty Pryde in the movies, if possible. And of course, my number 1 pick for a Wolverine movie story, Old Man Logan. Not only is it one of the best Wolverine stories of all time, I think thematically it's a good bookend for Hugh Jackman's run, even though it's kind of dark. Wolverine gets mind controlled, like he does a couple other times in the comics, kills a whole bunch of his friends, goes super dark, like renounces the title of Wolverine, and ages into this future where the villains of the world have taken over. The only reason I think they wouldn't do a story like this is because this is like the slam to black ending where it's like, how are we going to fix this? And then they fix it like in the next big team up movie. If Wolverine kills a bunch of his friends, kills a bunch of the X-Men, how are they going to explain that? How are they going to do another X-Men franchise film if they just recast all those young actors? So they'd have to find a way around that. They'd have to have like a bunch of red shirt X-Men characters for him to kill. But it's such an amazing story that I don't see them not doing it at some point, whether or not it happens with Hugh Jackman or some future actor. So here's my big question for you guys. What story from the comics do you want to see them do for Hugh Jackman's last Wolverine solo film? Even though I said they already adapted some of Death of Wolverine for the last Wolverine film, I do think that they could do a Death of Wolverine story and it would totally work. If you haven't read that storyline in the comic books, it gets into the idea of multiple Wolverines after the death of Wolverine. So there are a number of directions they can take the Death of Wolverine story, even if they do change a bunch of stuff from the comic book story. I know a lot of you guys are asking about the recent X-Men casting. They just cast Jubilee for the movie. I think, like I said, they're going with super young characters, and all the versions we've ever seen of Jubilee have always been really young teen girls. Most of my memories of the character come from the 90s cartoon series, and she was kind of a silly character, like, here's some fireworks, here you go. So I'll be interested to see what they change about that for the movies. The funny thing about the Jubilee character is that when they first introduced her in the comics, she was intended to replace Kitty Pryde inside the Uncanny X-Men title because Kitty Pryde had gone to Excalibur. So it's like Uncanny X-Men, one of the most popular comics of all time, lost one of its most popular characters, so they're like, okay, we need to bring someone back in to be the young teen girl. Thus, Jubilee was created, although she never became as popular as Kitty Pryde ever was. There was also some really big Deadpool news that just posted. Ryan Reynolds posted this picture of himself doing like a very Burt Reynolds type pose on top of a bearskin rug in front of a fireplace. They also released some info about how the movie is going to tie in with the other X-Men films. So I'm going to do a separate Deadpool video for all that stuff. Be sure to subscribe to get it. I'll post it before Walking Dead stuff starts tomorrow. Seriously, big weekend for bloody stuff. It's going to be really fun. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here to learn all about this special Game of Thrones teaser that Jaime Lannister just dropped. It is really funny. And you can click here to start learning more about the Daredevil TV series. That's actually coming in a couple weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Let's all high five. I'll see you guys tonight.